Welcome to Teen Up, a podcast that digs deeper into the thoughts of teenagers' minds about the wonders of the world.
If you're new here, I am your host, Isabella.
And I'm Glenn. If you're not, welcome back.
Here's a quick disclaimer. If we made any mistakes, please email us and tell us. Thank you.
This month, we're focusing on parents' and kids' relationships. Since family forms a person's personality, it is common to analyze one's actions to the root of family. And this week, we're focusing mainly on Gen Z's parents.
Gen Zs is known as the generation who grew up with technology and those that are more antisocial. And that leads to new issues all parents in history have never met. Therefore, this week, we are talking about Gen Z's parents and their relationships. Okay, so I mentioned how in the introduction that Gen Z is more antisocial. I would say it's that we're more aware of our surroundings because we spend too much time on our screens or on our phones and looking at screens. Do you get what I mean? Yeah, and we don't spend as much time with friends and family as past people do. Like my mom would always say, like when she was like my age, she'd be outside, playing with her friends. And I'm like, but that's not how we work right now. Yeah, it's just different. And it makes sense that parents right now are dealing with a new type of kids that this planet has never faced. So that's why parents nowadays would sometimes be called helicopter parents. I don't know if you have heard of this term.
Yeah.
So helicopter parents is basically a style of raising children involving a parent taking an overprotective or excessive interest in their children's lives. So personally, I would say I have seen many helicopter parents.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah. At first, actually, I kind of thought it was like a Taiwanese parents thing, but I guess not. You could actually see helicopters parents in also in movies kind of, and how, parents are looking into a kid's, let's say, college application really closely and be like, are you sure you want to apply to this school? Or they would say, yeah, you should totally go to this school because I went to this school and you should totally go there. Oh, and how, parents would just go deep into a kid's life and kind of make their decisions instead of letting the kids do their own decisions. And I would say that this is a aspect of what a helicopter parent is. So our parents right now are around the generation of Generation X, which is born between, this is like a rough date, born between the 1965s around to 1980s. And yes, my parents are also around like the Gen X age. And the reasons for helicopter parents to have such behaviors, there are 3 reasons that a website that I read off of said. And I think 3 of them all make great sense. So the first one is the fear for their child's safety and well-being. Like for me, if I were to have a child, I would definitely be afraid of my child's safety. And like for my sister, she said that she doesn't want to have children because she is going to be too scared for her children's safety. Like she feels like she isn't able to completely protect them and protect them from all types of danger, and that makes her feel like having a child is too burdensome. So I guess that this reason is a very great reason for parents to overprotect a child.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And the second reason is that helicopter parents want their child to be the best they can be. I feel like this is also a very relatable one that I see a lot of parents say to their kids. It's like, oh, just do the best that you can, and we're providing everything in your life in order for you to be the best that you can be. And that leads to, I wouldn't say like this would lead to a child's pressure, but it for sure sometimes would stress out the kids because they sometimes may not like want to be someone that their parents wish that their best is. Do you get it?
Yeah. And I think another reason for that is I think it's that because for Gen Z's parents, they have more things to lose in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like before them, their parents might have nothing. They didn't go to college. They, started from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So like my idea is that they wouldn't expect too much from their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And for Gen Z's parents, they were born in a time where technology is growing at a crazy speed,
Mm-hmm.
and our just like overall human society is growing at a
Mm-hmm.
crazy speed.
Mm-hmm.
So they're able to, have properties. They're able to go to college, and they're able to earn a lot of money from the economic.
Mm-hmm.
So they would like expect the same or even better from their kids because now they have something. Now they have property. Now they have, a certain amount of money in their bank account.
Mm-hmm.
They have investments. So they would want
Mm-hmm.
their kids to have the same or even better. And that's probably why they are pushing their kids harder.
Yeah, like I could totally see what you just said in my like own life. Like my parents would often tell me that they started out with nothing when they were like kids. They would say how poor they were or how little they had. And they would say like we put in all this work in order to earn this amount of money in order for me to get a greater education. They want me to be better than they are. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that this is out of like a good heart and it's for sure wanting their kids to have the best and to, you know, to be successful in life. And they don't want their kids to struggle in life like after maybe their parents are gone. So I guess it totally makes sense how they want to have their kids to have the best.
Yeah.
The third reason is that these parents want their kids to be who they weren't able to be.
Oh, definitely. I think this is definitely another thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for a lot of like, for still in movies, I feel like I see a lot of this example in movies how, like, if a father has a son and that father was, well, I think a specific movie was about like a wrestler and the father was a wrestler and they like he wanted his kids to become wrestlers too, kind of, and become like the champion of like a certain competition, like because they weren't able to be the champion in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, I think all these three reasons, each of them have like a good meaning behind it. But when added together and from a children's point of view, when they look at their parents, what they're giving out is really an overprotective and, as I have said, excessive interest in their children's lives.
Right.
Yeah. So for the characteristics of these helicopter parents, the first one is independence. I think that independence is something that they have learned ever since they were small because, like you said, they had nothing, right? And as the society grew, they grew with the society and learned all their skills while they were growing up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And these parents, their independence helps them, know how to attack a problem and solve a problem. And one thing that I totally see on my parents is that they're not afraid to speak their minds. And I think this is also due to like the time difference of like what year and what the whole circumstances they were brought up within. Like my parents, they're super able to speak their minds whenever they want, or whenever they find a problem, they would vocalize about it. Whereas I find it harder to do so because I think it's also like I wouldn't say it's like a Gen Z trait. It's more of like a we want to know what the situation is before we speak our minds. So moving on to the second characteristics, it is adaptability. So parents of Generation Z, which are mostly Gen Xers, they are more casual than the preceding generation, and they tend to be more flexible and far less tied to a strict timetable, and that they are more able to adapt to quick changes, and most of them place value on informality.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one is really a great characteristic of Gen X's, because you see how a lot of successful people right now are around like 50s, 60s, and they are Gen X. And they are able to accept whatever ideas like millennials are able to bring up. And they are able to adapt quickly to like also technology. I mean, it's also because that they grew up with the technology and, kind of made technology as they went. But I think that adaptability is for sure a characteristics that we could see on Gen X's.
Yeah.
And this third characteristic, I kind of just talked about that, is that they really know how to use technology. And yeah, like I said, they were the first generation to work with computers, and they technically made computers. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, these are the three main characteristics that we could see on helicopter parents. And I think these three characteristics, they do match, personally for my parents. They do match my parents. And not saying that my parents are helicopter parents, but I could see like a relationship between why people say that a lot of Gen Z's parents are like this. And I just think that it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And this is kind of like a FYI. Whenever you're having trouble communicating to your parents, it is actually very important to talk to them and bring them into a conversation. And it's important to also really hear where they're coming from in order to make a constructive conversation and communicate with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So the relationship now between these types of parents and Gen Zs, there are some issues that are brought up from an article that I saw. So the first one is that parents and kids both spend too much time on screens. I think this is very agreeable.
Yep.
We see that parents are on their phones or on their iPads, laptops, trying to like check emails or talking to their colleagues about work. And even if they are not working, they might also be on the phone talking to their friends and stuff. And this could create double standards, which creates a problem of how parents would say, oh, don't use your phone at the dinner table, while they would be checking emails at the dinner table.
I guess sometimes it is like that.
Mm-hmm. And this second issue is that parents may not understand the things that their kids are going through, like mentally, and may use what they were taught to do and force it on their kids.
I actually think it's for every parent because it's just from a different generation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's like Gen Z specific.
No, I think that is totally true, because like for millennials also, their parents don't really understand also what they're going through, because even for their parents, that would be like they didn't have technology for most of their lives, but now millennials, they have to use technology, and they wouldn't understand what they were going through too. So I think this, yeah, it makes sense that this fits for all parents and kids situation.
Mm-hmm.
And this third one is that Gen Zs are more stressed about meeting their parents' expectations, like academically, and just how successful they are going to be in the future. Because like we said in the beginning, for reasons why parents are like this is that they want their kids to be the best they can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this would cause some strain between their relationships. And the last one is that parents are emotionally unavailable for kids.
I mean, I don't feel like this is like a very universal thing. Not like it doesn't happen, but I wouldn't say it's for everyone. It's just kind of like, so what you say reminds me like how in some movies these very rich parents, they would be emotionally unavailable for kids. That's what I'm thinking mainly.
Yeah, like in those movies, they would like buy toys for their kids and then just go off to work. Okay, so after the break, we're going to talk about Gen Zs.
Welcome back. Now we're going to talk about Gen Zs.
Okay, so I read about this article, which I absolutely liked a lot. So basically, the summary of this article is that Gen Zs is seen as weak by a lot of older generations. These older generations would think so because we are less willing to go out alone and we can't do as much as our parents were able to do when they were our age. And for this part, I mean, like, we are not there are kids out there that are unable to like go to a grocery store by themselves. Like they're really anxious about talking to people or just the cashiers, which I totally get because we do spend a lot of time on our phones and less with people, and especially with the pandemic happening. But anyways, this article made the turning point saying that we grew up in a totally different environment from our parents, which is agreeable too. And we are born in a environment that has great technological improvements and issues like massive shootings and also like Black Lives Matters and environmental issues. And through these issues, we are actually able to voice ourselves and talk about these issues. Like you could see like Greta Thunberg. Like Greta Thunberg, she is able to vocalize her thoughts on environmental issues. And like for Black Lives Matters, we see a lot of Gen Zs out there posting on social media about what they think about these issues. And we could see them in parades or, just out there making their impact.
Yeah, we definitely live in a very messy, chaotic time now. And I think the difference is that we are growing up at the same time, unlike, our parents who's already grown and they can deal with this. But we are dealing with this at the same time that we're dealing with growing up, which would definitely make it harder. Not to say that, our parents grew up in an easier time, because I believe that every generation has their own difficulties that they need to deal with, and that makes a generation special.
Yeah.
And I think we can really see this messiness because when you were talking about this, and then I was thinking like this new album by Lana Del Rey, and I think that lyrics really captures this messiness or like the characteristics of this time, like quarantine. And like it's just this dread in a way. And yeah, I definitely see that there is some characteristics along these lines in Gen Z.
Yeah. Okay, just like a little side note, I was thinking about, how our parents, when they were our age, like they would probably have like their first breakup or something. And right now, when they look at like us and we have our first breakups, like we're super dramatic and they were like, oh, get over it. But like the first love kind of concept is different now versus theirs, because like right now we could do like long distance. I mean, not all people could do long distance, but like basically with the technology and stuff, we could do long distance. And we can't understand like what their first love was like if they met a foreign person and they fell in love and that foreign person has to like go back to their own country. And it's like a totally different situation. Every experience that we have, even though they're both first loves, they're still different. Yeah. And this next little issue that I'm going to bring up about Gen Zs is that we focus a lot on mental health. Gen Zs are more likely to vocalize about their mental health issues and have an increased amount of anxiety. And
Mm-hmm.
researchers have said that academics and the nature of work have become more stressful and competitive, resulting in more external and self-imposed pressure and less downtime. And I think this makes a lot of sense because right now, our society is, growing really, really, really fast. And everyone is trying to do something out there. Everyone is trying to, make their own difference. And that creates a lot of pressure on Gen Zs because that makes us have to also make a difference in the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I definitely saw like articles saying how we're not working less. We're not
Mm-hmm.
slacking off, but it's that our bosses expect more from us
Mm-hmm.
and they're not paying us more. So we're not earning enough money to, say, buy a house, start a family, but we're
Mm-hmm.
working
Mm-hmm.
harder than ever.
Yeah, and it's totally agreeable. And, we also have to take care of our mental health. Yeah. And another issue about Gen Zs is that we spend too much time on screens, and researchers have said that this accounts for less face-to-face time with others and generally fewer social interactions, leading to isolation and reduced confidence, particularly those involving physical activity or play. I think this makes a lot of sense. And again, with the pandemic and the lockdown in the past year, this has definitely reduced a lot of actual interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And this would lead to, more social anxiety. Like if you haven't met a human being in a year, you're going to have you're going to be stressed out about that when meeting someone face to face.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily true for us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, for us, it's different. But I would say that still our generation, yeah, just spend too much time on screen. I mean, it's technically like not an issue, but also an issue. Like we can't stop spending time on screens, right? Or else we would be cavemen. Anyways. And another issue is that Gen Zs are faced with more social issues as they spend more time on social media. Like I said, Black Lives Matter, environmental issues, massive shootings and stuff like that. And a lot of people have to deal with more than their parents had to, like bills and housings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with all these like issues that we have to face, when you think about it, Gen Zs could actually be great parents when we grow up because we're more open about mental health and we know that kids don't go through an easy childhood. And we know that it could be difficult to be spending too much time on social media and to be under the pressure of being expected to do a lot.
I don't think we necessarily would be great parents because, our kids would have new problems.
For sure.
And it's gonna be more than that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even if we know that you need to take care of your mental health, you're gonna understand that they're going through some things and we're accepting them as they are.
Mm-hmm.
There is definitely gonna be new thing that we don't understand, that we cannot
Yeah.
accept. Just like how maybe your grandparents does not understand people being trans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like they just cannot grasp the idea that somebody can change their physical gender.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true. It's like if my kid in the future would come out to me and say that I'm a wolf.
Yeah.
I'd be so shocked.
You'll be like, what?
What? Yeah, that would probably.
But that could potentially happen. I mean,
I know.
I mean, it's like how somebody come out to their parents saying like, oh, they think they're not, male or female. They want to be like the opposite sex or somewhere in between, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe their
Yeah.
parents cannot understand that. It's not that they don't want to accept it. It's that they don't understand it fundamentally, Just like how we wouldn't be able to understand fundamentally how someone tells us that they're a wolf.
Yeah, that would be Yeah, I would need some time to be able to, chew in that information.
I would need somebody to educate me. Like, okay, so how's this gonna work? Are you gonna live with other wolves?
You're gonna die. Okay, yeah. But I do get what you mean here, and it totally makes sense. Even though, we value a lot of acceptance and open communication than previous generations, new generations are gonna just bring up more things that we don't understand, seeing how the society is moving at such a great rate. Anyways, I just feel like Gen Zs could be great parents since that we could, fill in the gaps of Gen X parenting issues. And that brings us an end to this episode.
Next week, we will talk about gentle parenting.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
We will upload a new episode every Thursday.
Remember to like, follow, and share our podcasts with your friends and family. You could also share your idea and thoughts with us on our Instagram at teenup.podcast.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our channel.
Thank you and bye.